Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I am Adesua Omoruan. Now, to the race for the presidency in Nigeria. With just over a year until President Buhari's term expires, the jostling for succession has begun in earnest. And my next guest, Chukwuka Monye, is one of several political figures vying for the position. Under the Future is Now slogan, Mr. Monye has vowed to rescue Nigeria from insecurity, poverty, and bad leadership. He says he will develop and empower the security forces, create an enabling environment for the creation of jobs, and implement an overhaul of the justice, health, and education sectors. But he faces stiff competition from a host of more well-known and easily recognizable politicians. So, can Chukwuka Monye bring about the change he says he wants to see in Nigeria? Great to have you join us on the Arise interview, Mr. Chukwuka Monye.
Thank you very much.
Well, you believe Nigeria has been drifting from pillar to post with no clear vision or direction. Let me ask you, at what point did the country begin to drift without direction? And what makes you the ideal candidate?
Okay, thank you once again. I think one of the important things that I'd like to state this evening is I shared during the my announcement when I declared that I represent a generation that hasn't witnessed a lot of the things that our parents told us about. So it's not specifically about, okay, when did Nigeria begin to drift? The question is, for me and for a lot of people from my generation, what have we experienced over time? And do we think we can experience better? Okay. There are quite a number of things that we can sit down today and say, it can be better, or we had a better experience at some point. If I refer to what I was saying earlier about what our parents told us about, all we've always heard is Nigeria used to be good, or good old days. Nigeria used to be fantastic. We don't know it. I don't know it. So it's not a matter of what time. And a lot of what I am proposing has to do with being focused on a segment of the society. You can't sit down and say you are creating plans for an economy that is largely constituted of young people, of the youth, but you don't even have the youth involved in that whole process of coming up with those plans or solutions. And that's what I'm saying I want to do. That my viewpoint, my vantage point, the way I view things is different from the way someone else from another generation will see it. I'm representing, maybe 70% of the population, but we're not involved in the process of developing the country. For me, that's absurd, and it's time for people to rise up and say, hey, we're not going to sit on the sidelines anymore, and say that we want to take, our destiny in our hands, as it were.
You are saying that the vantage point for you is the generational gap, the difference in the age. We have seen you're relatively young at 43, vying for the highest position in the land. As regards those who we've seen who are also declaring. But let me ask you, because you're promising institutional reforms for justice, health, and education sectors. You are also promising to create jobs, the enabling environment for that. Can I tell you for free that these are similar? In fact, they are the same things other aspirants are promising to do. So what would you do differently?
Okay, I think some things are expected because everyone desires it. I think the difference is what you desire is different from what you can actualize. I'm coming from a standpoint of being a beneficiary or someone who has experienced some of these things, have been on the receiving end. When you're on the receiving end, you understand it better. For a lot of people who come up with the plans and the policies, a lot of times they have not even experienced some of these situations. So if I'm coming and I'm telling you I'm interested in doing some reforms in the healthcare sector, it's because I've gone through, I've had certain pains, I've had situations where I even lost, a closed one, and I know what happened through that process. So if I'm put in a situation where I'm supposed to come up with a solution, it will be practical because it's experiential. It's not just because, I have gotten, a position to just write policies. It's more than that, And what I'm saying is something that a huge population, a huge number of people have gone through. It's not just me. People are going through different challenges every day, but they're not involved in the process of governance. They're not involved. People are trying to create policies for them. Why are they not involved? That's what I'm saying. That's what I want to bring to the table. I'm representing millions of Nigerians who are saying, you know what, things need to change, and we also need to be involved in that change.
Talk about the Nigerians, the people. Quite a number of recycled and established politicians are throwing their hats in the ring so far. Have you seen enough to convince you that Nigerians are ready to take a chance on a young newbie in politics such as you?
I think so. I think that when you experience, what is going on the streets, a lot of people are saying enough is enough. I think the beautiful thing about democracy is that everybody's free, right? Regardless of your age, regardless of your experience, to come out and say you have the conviction to do something. And I respect everybody who's coming out, and even if you call them recycling, that's fine. But they are not my focus at the moment. My focus is to come out representing, the Nigerians that are desirous of change, who want a new Nigeria, and pursue, that mission as best as I can.
And where do you get the assurances from that this time around there would be a difference? Because I asked about the recycled politicians and the people, because the people have the final say. They go out to cast their ballots. But we see the same faces every election cycle, and they do win the election. So what is different this time around is my question.
So I announced or declared my interest to run for the #1 office only less than 10 days ago. And since then, we've had so many, in their thousands, that have, registered to volunteer, to support this mission. For me, that is a small indication of what people want. They're desirous of something different. So, and if you speak to people on the street, they'll tell you the same thing. So I do understand and I appreciate your point, which is, okay, will that necessarily translate to them actually coming out and supporting? That's the work that needs to be done between now and then, right? And I'm ready to do so.
You have declared your intentions, but Mr. Monye, on what platform would you be executing these plans of yours?
Thank you. I will be making a decision about the party, the platform in the coming days. I'm actually close to making a formal announcement of the platform. At the moment, I'm still going through consultations, but I think the most important thing for me at this time is to ensure that certain factors are addressed, and I'm going through all those different considerations that matter to me and matter to my constituencies.
To tell your constituency first on the Arise interview, what platform you'll be running on?
Come again?
I said you have the opportunity to tell your followers what platform, political platform you'll be running on. You have the chance to tell them. This is the Arise interview. Why are you still keeping it close to your chest?
The decision hasn't been made. I'm close to making that decision because, like I said, quite a number of factors are being considered. But as soon as we have that name of the party, I'll probably come here to make that announcement.
Probably. I'll excuse you for that. But would it be any of the known parties, the APC, the PDP, or any other one? Or do you have a new party in mind?
There are quite a number of things being considered. I'll rather, wait till I make the final decision.
One of the biggest political topics in Nigeria at the moment, as we count down to the election, is who should be the next president, the criteria, and where the person is from. Some will call it rotational power, others will call it zoning. You are from Delta State, South Nigeria, but there's a growing clamor for the next president to come from the southeastern region of the country. Do you think zoning will work against you if you eventually join a political party?
I am not sure. I think for me at the moment, and based on just my philosophy, I think the priority is to focus on what I'm bringing to the table. My positioning is really to focus on letting people know, letting Nigerians know that I'm competent for the job. I think the decision is theirs to make. Like I said earlier, Nigeria is complex and has different groups. There are those that are fascinated and very interested in ethnic or ethnicity conversations. There are those that are not interested in it at all. Some are interested in religious conversations and different, ways of classifying. But there are quite a number of people that are saying, no, we just want somebody who is competent. We just want a leader. As a matter of fact, we want someone that is not just a politician, but someone who's dynamic and understands the issues and has some experience, young as well. So if I look at some of those boxes that people are checking, I think that's what I'll prioritize.
Okay, Mr. Monye, stay with us. Let's go on a quick break. You're watching the Rise interview. Plenty more still ahead. Stay with us. Glad to have you back. You're watching the Rise interview. Today we continue our dialogue with candidates and aspirants, both known and not so known, assessing their proposals and chances as Nigeria heads towards crucial general elections in 2023. And the presidential aspirant under the spotlight today is Chukwuka Monye, who is an Oxford-trained social innovator and change management expert. Is hoping to inspire the youth to get more involved in politics and to realize his vision of a safe, secure, and stable Nigeria. And Mr. Chukwuka Monye is still with me from our Lagos studio. Thank you so much for staying with us. Politics is seen and described as ruthless. Some call it a dirty game. Others say, it's just a career for some. How do you describe politics in Nigeria, Mr. Monye?
I think politics in Nigeria is it's a process. Yeah? It's a process to get to a point of, influencing. It's supposed to be a process to get to a point of influencing change, right? I think depending on how you look at it and depending on your experiences, you would have different definitions. Fortunately for me, I think the benefit that I have coming into it is quite different. I'm saying that rather than focus on the definition, because there's some people that will tell you that politics is really it's dirty from certain perspectives. but ultimately it's for you to be able to come in and rule. The definition of what they attain is rulership. But for me, I think there's an opportunity, and politics can have a different definition. It can have a more positive definition. And I think the outcome of a good process of politics is supposed to lead to you getting good leaders. And that's my proposition, that at the end of the day, I'm coming out to say that I want to be a leader. Politics is just part of being a leader. Of being a leader, and that's my take on what politics is. It's part of life. Politics is not only limited to the social sector or governance. It's part of life.
Well, let's talk about the elections. I wonder what keeps you up at night as you've declared to run in this race as an aspirant in the next general election in Nigeria. When you look at the cost of elections in Nigeria, it's not cheap. And with the spending limits that have been increased, I wonder, Mr. Monye, where you're getting your funding from? You must be a very rich man to want to run for the highest office of the land.
I think that, when you embark on something like this, you count your cost, you weigh all the different factors before you make the decision. Sometimes, even the resources that are required, you know that it's either one, you have a lot of it, or that you have, people that have a lot of it. And that's part of why I'm comfortable, going into this process, because I do appreciate the requirements of it. But I'm also confident that I have a few partners that are interested in the direction that I'm going with this.
So you either have a lot of it or you have people who have a lot of it. You haven't said which is it, but okay. Let me ask you some critical issues on the front burner in the country. The Buhari government plans to suspend fuel subsidy removal by 18 months with an amendment of the Petroleum Industry Act. Technically, that is a decision that will outlive this administration. Should you become the next president of Nigeria, would you eliminate subsidy on petrol?
So the thinking and the intention behind eliminating subsidy is, to ensure that there's more revenue and there's more efficiency in the management of the revenue, right? Now, for me, I have a philosophy around ensuring that any time you want to remove subsidy, you should ensure that there are other ways in which these kinds of decisions are cushioned. And to that extent, I think that what I would like to say is that the prerequisite for removing the subsidy is to ensure that there are other things that have been done in the economy to cushion the effects.
How do you intend to end bandit attacks, especially in northern Nigeria?
So the issue about banditry and similar, ills in society can be addressed from two angles. Okay. Number one is the physical security. Ensuring that you're empowering, the security forces, ensuring that they have, building capacity, equipping them properly, and quite frankly, making some tough decisions, right? But let's not be mistaken about what tends to lead, to these situations. There's also the social security angle of things, right? If there's high level of poverty, high level of unemployment, and all these other issues, people would look for what to do. And it's not necessarily going to be pleasant. So for me, security is going to be handled from two perspectives, okay? I also think that there's an opportunity, and I don't want to sound like, I'm talking a lot about the youth, but it's just because they're there and they're not being engaged. But even in solving some of the security issues, the youth, especially those that are tech savvy, can be employed in very creative ways, where data science, for instance, can be helped to contribute to the intelligence that will be used to solve some of these issues. There are all sorts of innovative and creative ways that youth can be engaged to solve security. But largely speaking, I'll speak from the physical security and social security side of things.
And should you become president, what would be your priority?
I've outlined sort of 3 broad areas, okay? We've talked about security briefly, but there's a second piece that is very, very important, which is to reform certain critical institutions, justice being one of them, health being another, and education being another. The reality is that the only way you're going to get jobs, create a lot of jobs, is that the environment is enabling. For the environment to be enabling, these foundational institutions must be reset, must be reorganized. Otherwise, there's no basis to build upon. We know that these are the issues. The reason why a lot of people say that Nigerians excel when they go abroad, is because the systems work. It's the same Nigerians, but when they come here, it just feels like you're toiling. I've advised, customers, I have mentees, I coach different people, and the average reaction and experience is that Nigerians are toiling, working too hard, and their hard work is not commensurate, to what they're getting. So for me, if we address the first 2 things, it will naturally lead to job creation.
Very well said, Mr. Chukwuka Monye. We can only wish you the very best in your quest. Thank you so much for being on the Arise interview today.
Thank you, Adesowa. Thank you very much.
Great. Well, that's it for this edition of the Arise interview. Do join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching.